Then we've got a new letter from Michael Sayers, who's still alive, aged 98, living in New York, who shared a flat with Orwell and Rainer Hessenthal in North London before the war. And we've not had any of the letters that all wrote to him before. But the interesting thing about this letter, apart from its survival, was where he describes Russia, that he's not really a Russophobe, but that as early as 1932 or thereabouts, he thought that the Russian regime was not all it was perhaps taken to be by many of the intellectuals.
I love this sentence. And that above all necessary to make people see that the Russian regime for what it is, i.e. what I think it is.
Yes. Yeah. But he always makes these sort of distinctions.
But that's sort of boast. It's a comment on his own writing almost. I'm not just going to say what it is. It's what I think it is, and you can take that or leave it.
And that has its limitations.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
He's pointing to his own.
Exactly.
And it's true. But then he talks about the danger is that some native form of totalitarianism will be developed here. That's what he's really worried about. So. But he puts this back as early as 1932. Well, it's very easy to. As we get older, to not get quite right when we first thought we did things, or so it may not be something you can take as absolutely correct, but it is earlier than we've thought before. When he goes to Spain, he's thought not to know anything about Marxism and so forth. And on the other hand, there is this account. I'm not sure it's by Rees. When he goes to the Letchworth conference, and he expanded Marxism in a way that they found completely surprising. And it's a little difficult to know just what he knew when then. The other things that are new.
You said that he was always interested in famine, and of course by 1932 the Ukrainian famine.
Yes. Well, things like that. I mean, it
must have been alerting.
You see, one thing's fairly well known, that Orwell would never take any money for translations into languages of people who he regarded as oppressed.
Yeah.
But he used to say to his agent that I'd like you to have your fee. He didn't want to cheat him out of it, but he wasn't going to take any money from Ukrainians or Persians as a Persian translation, all those things. He didn't, and indeed, of course, he paid for the Russian, contributed from what he'd earned in Germany. He used the money that was lodged there to pay towards the costs of the Russian translation of Animal Farm. One of the stories that I had, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I was talking to someone, a Romanian, and he said, you see, in Romania we could always read Animal Farm because the librarians very carefully used to file it under animal husbandry. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds good enough to be true.
No, it sounds just like the kind of thing you
That's what I think. They got away with it.
Yeah.
Said, you could actually read it in Romania. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. It was well after all time. The other thing we've got is that through Richard Brett Young has now the two proof copies, printed full book versions, of Clergyman's Daughter and Road to Wigan, Keep the Aspiration Flying. And these have readings which were later changed. I mean, some are very tiny. The English Review is changed to the London Mercury. But there are a couple that you can see why it was felt highly desirable at the time that this was something that shouldn't be said. He was even more Jewish in appearance than his father. And that was changed, rather ironically, I think, to given to the writing of sub-Eliot vers libre poems. So Eliot, who is often accused of being anti-Semitic, rightly or wrongly, etc. But it's interesting that it's changed to that, whether I don't know. And then there's another one, the beastliest type the world has yet produced, give me the Roman Catholic Jew. That was changed to an incredibly innocent thing, and that suit he is wearing is an offence in itself. But so that's the others are mainly to do with in Keep the Aspiration Flying, the changing the name of the hotel, the Riverside Hotel, to the Ravenscroft, and the names of some of the advertisements. He had to change these because they were terrified of legal actions, and Galanx did have problems because, being a left-wing or a publisher, one way of getting at him was to have him taken to court. Even if you lost the case, if you got plenty of money, you could run up the man defending it would have to pay heavy damages or legal costs and so forth. So Glanks was always very careful about what was said in books, even when it was probably unnecessary. A lot of the changes that were made to Clergyman's Daughter are really quite comic. You couldn't even give the name of the public library or give the name of streets. And a lot of those were changed, just in case anybody took offence. So, and one of the problems was, of course, in those days, there was a book called Children Be Happy. It might be an author's name, I've forgotten. Children Be Happy, which Glanks was taken to court for, and I think lost and had to pay damages. Describing a private school. Well, all, of course, describes a private school in the Clergyman's Daughter, and Glanks was actually very worried indeed about that. And there are about 30 pages of changes, most of which are lost, but we know there was a lot of change made. But I can see Glanks's point. And, of course, before, people had been sent to prison, Cecily was sent to prison for translating Zola.
Yes.
And so that it was a real issue then. And whereas nowadays, claims by patent medicine people would have them taken to court. Now they took the people who
yes.
claimed that.
Yes.
So always against the patent medicine people. And, but that was a dangerous line to take then. But that has changed. Well, perhaps it helped change it. With this also, I put in a very detailed chronology, and there are also little potted biographies of everybody, so you don't have to keep looking up all the names.
I think that's all brilliant.